Hello friend, my name is Kiri, and today we are going to be talking about Naruto Shippuden, which takes place 2.5 years after the end of the previous Naruto series when Sasuke leaves with Orochimaru and Naruto leaves with Jiraiya to train. When Naruto comes back to the village, he finds out that Gaara has actually become Kazekage of the village hidden in the sand and has been kidnapped by the Akatsuki, who is after the Shukaku, the one-tailed beast that is inside of him. Because they are the main characters, of course, it is up to Team Kakashi and Team Guy to save him, thus beginning the next chapter in the Naruto franchise. Now, if you are a patron, I do want to point out that yes, in the bi-weekly email, you got 2 emails, I think. One for Naruto Shippuden, just the Gaara arc, and then the second arc, but let's be honest, I've been binge watching the crap out of this, and I realized that if I were to start splitting this up into arcs, I'd really just be talking about what's going on in the story. It wouldn't really be a full, real review. So I just am going to lump it all in together. Because of this, this is going to be a very long review. It is actually 2.5 times longer than my normal reviews. So just sit tight, relax. Now, I absolutely 100% loved the first opening, and I know a lot of people didn't because they were used to the pretty, indie rock sounding songs by Flo, but there is just something about this song that I know it was rough, I know it had rap in it, it was a complete change from what they normally used, but I can understand why they made the change, and I really liked the song. That's all there is to it. It was great. As for the video, I really did enjoy how they presented the characters. I liked how we got to see their personalities, and I enjoyed how we were given a sneak peek as to what kind of villains and characters we're supposed to expect to see in this little arc. Then the second opening happened, and I liked the video. We'll get that out of the way. I did like the video. I thought the video was excellent. They did a very good job on it, but the song just did not sit well with me. It was a very cheery song about friendship, and the part of the story that it was being played in didn't feel right. It wasn't about happy friendship, yeah! And they were featuring Sai before he was introduced. Why would you change the opening to feature a character that wasn't even a part of the story yet? That doesn't make sense. Though, if I am 100% honest, I realized very quickly that I wasn't really going to be enjoying the openings for Shippuden for the most part. There were a few that were good that, they sat well with me, but for the most part, I just wasn't impressed. It wasn't that I disliked them. I just didn't care. I skipped through pretty much all of them. The opening sequences have always had a very nice Naruto feel to them, and a lot of that had to do with the songs that were chosen. But the songs that they picked during Shippuden just felt like very generic anime songs, if that makes any sense. They were good, they just didn't fit this series, and they didn't really fit the videos that they were being played over. Now, the closings changed a lot throughout the series, so I'm only going to be talking about a handful that really stood out at me. With the third opening, because like I said, they were featuring Sai before he was introduced. I mean, the video itself wasn't that impressive anyways, but they had a video that was focused entirely on Sai, and he wasn't even a part of the story yet, so that doesn't really make sense with me. Though, there was one closing that I still don't know how I feel about it. What the f was actually happening in the fourth closing after the Gaara arc ended? It was like some terrible commercial for a Death Parade crossover. Holy shit, what kind of drugs do you have to be taking in order to create something like this? And what kind of drugs do you have to be taking on top of being drunk to approve it? I don't get why the Kunoichi were dancing around. I don't know what was happening with Guy and Lee. And it was just so bizarre. I felt like I was watching a car crash. I wanted to look away. I wanted it to stop. But my eyes were glued, and I just sat there watching it every single time, waiting for it to end. And then it did end, and it stopped showing up, and then I was really upset because I missed it. Because then the fifth ending rolled around, and it was this weird, people were shouting. I guess they were trying to lip sync to the song, but I don't really know if that's what was happening. But the teeth were really detailed. It was really awkward to look at. So I do have to say, I want to point out that Kiba's sass at the end because it really reminds me, if any of you are EXO fans, in Call Me Baby, when you see like everyone dancing around and then you see like Sehun off to the side with his hip like about to snap off, he's pushing it out so far with all of his sassy wonderfulness. That kind of reminded me of that when I saw Kiba. Now, as for the writing, I have to say I really missed the humor. By the end of the Naruto series, it had gotten very depressing, it was sad, and so when Shippuden started back up and we got to see like all of that humor again, I actually felt kind of giddy. I know that sounds really dorky, but Naruto has always had a special type of humor that has always clicked well with me. I have always found it hilarious. And they always blended it very well with the serious and sadder moments. It never felt out of place, it never felt forced, it always felt very organic, and it was just enough humor to keep my heart from totally caving in on itself in the super dark times, because holy shit, Shippuden gets so sad and so dark really fast. Think back to like the Chunin exam arc, but if it were a lot more adult. Like Naruto has always had this feel about it that was very shonen-y, it was very light. It had its darker, more serious moments, but for the most part, it had like this air about it that kept it from being too sad. That was completely gone. Any of that was just thrown out the freaking window. We're probably never going to see it again. I guess what I'm trying to say is just with Shippuden, the atmosphere completely changes, and it showed us the darker, sadder side of what it means to really be a shinobi. Now this is the part of the review that is going to be chock full of spoilers, so if you don't want to hear about major character deaths and big important moments, there is a convenient timestamp here from Editing Kristen that is going to tell you where to skip to if you want to avoid all of the nitty-gritty stuff. So yeah, those feels totally 100% got to me. I knew what was going to happen in the Gaara arc because I had read that far in the manga. That was actually where I stopped reading, and it still made me really sad, you know, seeing Naruto all upset, seeing Sakura being worried for Naruto when they see Gaara's dead body, and it's just seeing everyone gathered around Gaara praying for him to come back to life while Chio revives him was just, it wasn't, I don't know if I'd say it was sad, but it really got to me. And then the whole thing with Asuma came around, and if you guys follow me on Twitter, you already know this, and maybe I talked about this on Player.me, but when Asuma died, I was heartbroken because they spent a lot of time letting us get to know him, we got attached to him, and then they killed him. He was killed by Hidan, I think. Hidan is freaking hilarious. Like, I really liked him. He was funny. But it wasn't so much Asuma's death that got to me. That wasn't really the saddest part. It was seeing Shikamaru and the way he was handling it. You know, that scene where he's talking with his dad and he starts, like, breaking down into, like, a fit of tears as he finally accepts that Asuma's dead, and his dad starts walking away. That was the saddest part in the entire series. Wow, that was really hard for me to say, but really, in the entire Naruto series so far, from what I have seen, I'm in about episode 200, that is still the saddest, most, like, depressing, heart-wrenching moment in the entire series. I don't care what anyone has to say, that is my opinion on it. If you think I'm a dork for thinking so, then you're right, I am a dork. I have Star Wars tattoos. I'm a dork. But then I actually started to kind of pity Orochimaru because, you know, at first we think he's just, like, some evil guy, but we find out that he was actually a really great guy that was just driven into complete insanity because he hated how fragile humans' lives were. He was tired of seeing people sad when their loved ones died, so he became completely obsessed with finding how to be immortal. So, and I mean, I'm not saying that I like him because he still creeps me out. I'm pretty sure that Sasuke and Orochimaru fight in the compound was initially scripted as a rape scene because you don't just obsess over some teenage guy for a handful of years and then scream, "Give me your body!" before lunging at him. Like, that is, especially when you're in, like, tentacle form. Like, It was just interesting to see how the series reminded you that not everything is exactly how it appears at first. You can kind of say the same thing about Kabuto, who started out as a very calm and collected genius before falling to a madman that was obsessed with Orochimaru and his ideals. Though I still absolutely hate Karin, or Karen, however you pronounce her name. Everyone seems to pronounce it differently, but the minute she was introduced, I absolutely hated her. I thought, no, we have been through this already. We went through the Sasuke fangirl phase. That is over. Do not make us relive that shit. And it's still happening, and I still can't stand her. And it really sucks because her voice actress is really good. Like, she is really one of the most talented voiceover artists in the entire series, if I may say so myself. So seeing all of that potential and her talent wasted on a pre-Chunin exam Sakura incarnate is just depressing almost. Outside of specific characters though, it was nice to see how the other characters were able to advance to Chunin and Jonin rank. Because it sort of reminds you that just because the main character is gone doesn't mean that everything ceases to function until he gets back. But then Naruto got all depressed because he's still a genin, and it kind of made me realize that he's actually a really terrible shinobi. I mean, he's not good at fighting, he just uses a bunch of shadow clones to try to overwhelm his opponent with sheer numbers, or he uses his Rasengan, which usually never ever works until like the last 2 minutes of the episode or the fight where his plot device armor clicks on and suddenly everything works exactly how he wants it to. I mean, he's terrible in combat, he's awful at communication, and he doesn't seem to understand what it means to actually be a part of a team, so it kind of makes you wonder how he expects to advance and rank when he still can't grasp the core concept of what it means to be a shinobi. I mean, we get to see the other characters in action and they completely dominate whatever field they're in. Sakura is powerful and smart and works well with teammates even if she had only just met them, on top of being a very powerful medical ninja, so she is very helpful both in and out of battle. And Gaara, while not being good at hand-to-hand combat whatsoever, uses his sand as an extension of his own body in a very masterful way. And even Shikamaru, who again isn't good at hand-to-hand combat like Sakura and Kakashi are, still uses his Shadow Possession Jutsus in a very expert way to where he doesn't need to be good at hand-to-hand combat. So when you compare Naruto to the rest of them, he is garbage. Outside of the characters and stuff, there's way too much filler. And that's saying something, because you guys know I don't usually have a problem with filler episodes, and sometimes I can appreciate them for being there. But when you have 2 back-to-back full filler arcs, you just need to take a seasonal break. You need to stop what you're doing, stop pushing out shit just because you need to wait for the manga to catch up, because it's just nonsense by that point. You're literally just giving us things that don't matter. As for specific parts of the story, I don't really understand what was going on in the Gaara arc with the Team Guy clones, because they could communicate with each other very well. They had their little ear device microphone things, and they were only maybe a few hundred meters apart, so when their clones showed up and they realized, oh no, we can't beat ourselves because it's a mirror match, why didn't they just meet up and take each other out? I mean, Neji could easily take out Lee could take out Ten, Guy could take out Neji, and then they could team up to take out Guy, so why didn't they just do that? And it does feel kind of weird that Tsunade is so insistent on sending out Genin and Chunin on what should be, you know, S-ranked missions, because they keep sending out Team Kakashi and, like, Kiba and Shino and, you know, everyone else. They keep sending them out after the Akatsuki, after Orochimaru, after Sasuke, and you would think that they would send, you know, Anbu or the Elite Jonin, not people who are Chunins, because Chunin is literally, like, the middle ninja or something. Like, they're average. There's nothing special about them. There's a reason they haven't made it to Jonin yet. So I don't get why they were sending, you know, average shinobi after S-class criminals. And speaking of, like, Sasuke and the Akatsuki, the Itachi versus Sasuke fight was strangely unemotional. I mean, it was an amazing battle. I really, really liked how it all turned out, but there was just something about it where I figured it would be a little more feelsy. I feel like it kind of was missing that, you know, very strong emotion that we were all expecting for, you know, this big climax. It just never happened. So I do not understand Sasuke's reasoning for wanting to destroy the Leaf Village, because he's like, oh, my brother did everything for the Leaf Village. He sacrificed his life. He did all of this, all to protect me and the Leaf Village because he loves the village so much. I'm going to avenge his death by destroying it. Like, what? What? Sasuke, go home. You're drunk as Though, I am actually kind of glad he's back in the story. Like, I was really surprised. I was genuinely glad to have him back as a major part of the story because, guys, I think I missed him. I am 99% in love with the changes made in Shippuden. The lines are a lot smoother, the animation is finally on point, and there's just a major atmospheric change. There was a much heavier atmosphere, and I think a lot of that had to do with how they decided to color and shade everything. I wish I could put my finger on exactly what causes the big change, because it really does sit differently with you, but I think that's just a combination of a lot of different factors, such as the writing, the design, and the soundtrack, which I'll get to later. Though Sakura's hair was really the only thing I wasn't a fan of, and when it came to the costume changes, because, you know, with Sakura, she's a soft, girly person, even if she's still very strong. And I feel like her hair is too spiky for her personality and the rest of her outfit. That aside, I totally adored how everyone else looked. You could see that the characters were really growing up, their previously round facial features changing into slimmer, stronger adult faces. Their new outfits were very reminiscent of what they used to wear, but they were still very new and showed that they had grown up and matured. And despite not liking her hair, one of the outfit changes I really liked the most was Sakura's. It looks like she's finally picked something a bit more practical than a dress and shorts, choosing to wear something that looks a lot more combat ready. Neji's impressed me a lot too. His getup changed the most out of everyone, save Sasuke, but it still felt Neji. It still felt totally appropriate for his character, and I actually really liked how he had the little pieces of hair hanging around his face instead of having it all tied back. I was also super glad to see Naruto finally out of that god-awful orange and blue monstrosity of a jumpsuit. It still has a lot of orange, but it isn't a total eyesore like the bulky thing he used to wear, and his hair is finally under control. So as of right now, I am very pleased with the way that Naruto Shippuden is going, and I'm really excited to continue watching it. The atmospheric changes, the character designs, the way that the story moves, it's very well done. I have a lot of praise for the soundtrack, especially because they really, really changed up the soundtrack. Now you guys know that I love the soundtrack for Naruto. It was absolutely stellar, but the new OST, it's very different, and I can understand why they made the changes, because the previous OST wouldn't really have clicked well. It wouldn't really have set the mood and the atmosphere that they were trying to set. So with this new soundtrack, they really were able to bring everything into the series together. They did also keep the old voice actors, so there's not a whole lot I can comment on that, but they actually had Hinata's voice actress a lot less breathy this time around, which was a great improvement because that actually did get on my nerves a little bit. So yeah, if you're a Naruto fan and you haven't watched Shippuden yet, I would 100% recommend it. Anyways, those are my thoughts on Naruto Shippuden so far. I really doubt they're going to change in the next 200 episodes. But have you seen it? Did you think that there was a character that looked cooler in their previous versions? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, you can find all of my social media as well as my Patreon in the description. Happy unbirthday, and I will see you later. Bye!